other attacks on the Jewish community in 1920 and 1921, 1929, were instigated by a call of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Haj Amin al-Husseini. Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews at the time. He wanted to expel the Jews. And Haj Amin al-Husseini went to Hitler and said, if you expel them, they'll all come here. So what should I do with them? He asked. He said, burn them.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that caused a lot of flack, of course. Joining us now is Dr. Andrew Bostom, professor of medicine at Brown University, PJ Media columnist, and author of Iran's Final Solution for Israel. Doctor, welcome. I want to spend a little time on this and then get to the incitement that's really causing all the violence against Israelis at the hands of Palestinian terrorists. But how accurate historically is Benjamin Netanyahu? Because he sort of backtracked a little off that.
Right. I think he made, Steve, the basic point that he made, which is valid, is that none of this jihadism, which was fomented beginning in 1918 by Haj Amin al-Husseini, who called for an annihilation of the Yishuv, the Jewish community back then, has anything to do with pure Nazism. It is an indigenous form of annihilationist Jew hatred. In fact, Haj Amin, and so it has nothing to do with settlements, borders, etc. In fact, Haj Amin al-Husseini formulated everything together in a fatwa, 1937, which I had translated for the first time into English. And basically, Steve, in a nutshell, it is the most virulently anti-Semitic themes from mainstream canonical Islam put into a condensed form, actually distributed, reproduced by the Nazis, and distributed to the Muslim legions that they were recruiting to join the SS in the Caucasus, in the Balkans.
All right, so that fits in, though. That does lay the groundwork for where we are today. Because where we are today, what we have seen this morph into, again, because it's not the first time, the Palestinian Authority, forget Hamas, we know about Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, they've turned this into, it's not about land anymore, it's not really about, this or that or disagreements on settlements. It's about religion. They've turned this in, through their incitement, into a religious conflict. No?
Absolutely. And one of the themes that Haj Amin al-Husseini repeated over and over was this idea that the Jews, per the words of Muhammad himself, had to be killed en masse to usher in the Messianic age. It's in one of the canonical hadith. The current Grand Mufti of the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas, repeated this hadith on a public platform in 2012. So what you've got over the last month, just October, is 48 stabbings, 5 car rammings, 5 shootings, 11 Israelis killed, 132 injured, and the constant use of Islamic incitement, invoking Muhammad's mass beheading of the Jews of the Banu Qurayza, invoking the Jews as apes and pigs, which is a Quranic verse, Quran 560, repeated by Muhammad. These are the themes over and over again, Steve, that the Palestinian clerics and even political leaders are invoking. And even Netanyahu, despite his clarity on certain things, will just talk in vague terms about incitement. He doesn't really want to touch the canonical Islamic basis of this, and I think it's to the public detriment, because it may make the problem seem intractable, but it is what it is, Steve.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And the United Nations, correct me if I'm wrong, they recently renamed the plaza, the Wailing Wall Plaza, after the horse of Muhammad. You know anything about that?
No, but it wouldn't surprise me, because the idea that somehow anything that the Israelis do in terms of paying respects to their religious sites, like the Temple Mount, anything that they do is considered Judaization.
Right.
It's crazy. So sure, they might promote the notion of Barak, the
horse.
steed,
yeah.
The whole idea, the only claim that the Muslims have to that area where the Temple Mount is an alleged dream of Muhammad. I mean, that's how remote from sort of...
Andrew, I want to just 30 seconds. Is there any way to blunt the incitement without the Palestinian Authority stopping the incitement?
Yes, I actually think there is. And it starts with the Israelis. It starts with Jews worldwide to point out exactly what it is. In other words, that to point out the text that this is coming from, and to have the world understand that the world has to rise up.
And by the way, and Andrew, by the way, we're paying for that, for the textbooks and the incitement on Palestinian TV, the United States taxpayer. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew Bostom up next. More of the show. Don't go away.